Hi, everybody, and welcome to Nerd to the Third Power, your one-stop shop for all things nerdy and awesome. I'm your host and master of ceremonies, Dr. Gonzo. With me, as always, this epic quest of awesomeness is our resident anime goddess, the one, the only, the beautiful, the Cat. Cat, how you doing?
I'm just getting snowed in here, no big deal.
You and half the country.
Right?
But, also in our co-chair's chair is, someone who's probably looking at our winter problems and calling us a bunch of pussies because she lives up in the frozen north. Skyblaze, what's up?
Well, you say I'm laughing at your winter problems. Mostly it's just cold and wet here at the moment. We haven't actually had any snow.
Oh.
We've had all of the snow.
You're welcome to it. You can keep it with my compliments.
Compliments from the Brit.
Well, because Skyblaze knows that the coming of the snow also means that the Vikings will soon be invading.
The Vikings are already here. No, seriously, the Yorkshire dialect, which is actually my native tongue as it was, some of the kind of versions of words we use are actually based on Old Norse.
God, that's badass.
And way
I know, right?
Alright. Okay, well, good to have you back, Skyblaze. And we've actually got a full house tonight as our correspondence corner is completely full. How you guys doing?
How are you guys doing? I'm doing good.
How you doing?
You know,
I can't complain.
We ought to make that correspondence corner bigger. They're all a bit jammed up in there.
Well, that just means that's just because Brian's been putting on a couple pounds.
Oh, that's so
Oh,
wow. That's not cool.
Okay, yeah, alright, I see how it is. I see, alright. Alright, you can't see it. Fingers up in the air. Oh, I got two of them up in the air for you.
It's a rare bird. There's only two of them.
I'm just teasing, Brian. You know I love you.
Not enough.
And there goes the slash fiction.
Woo! And they wonder why we're still stuck at the kiddie table.
No.
We ought to just get rid of the correspondence corner and just make it all one big kids table, because none of us are adults. Our driver's licenses say we're adults, but that's a lie. Alright, but speaking of childish things, we are going to be discussing the recent release of Gargoyles on YouTube for completely legal streaming, and kind of look back on a show that was a big part of most of our childhoods, and kind of, maybe theorize on some other shows we'd like to see brought back from the brink. So, yeah, but we got a lot of show ahead, so we're going to jump right into Ask a Geek. Starting with a question from Reggie, and he wants to know, in honor of the biggest sporting event in America, the Super Bowl, what are some fictional sports that you would like to see played in real life? He also has a stipulation that it cannot be one that we have made up. It has to have been from a book, movie, or show.
Quidditch!
What?
Are there any other fictional sports?
Yeah.
Well, there's Calvin Ball.
Ah! Yes! I'm all on board with that.
But isn't there already a bunch of colleges that actually kind of, play, in quotation marks, Quidditch?
Until there are flying brooms, there is not really Quidditch.
That's a good point.
I want to see the disc fighting arena from Tron Legacy.
Ooh.
Yes.
I would be all over that shit.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Now,
but you said book, movie, or show, so...
Yeah, I want to see any of the Zero-G sports from Red Dwarf actually becoming real. Because that would be hilarious.
I'm trying to remember which ones they are. You know what I would see? Rollerball.
There's things like, in Red Dwarf, there's things like Zero-G kickboxing, Zero-G football, Zero-G tennis, stuff like that, which would be fucking hysterical.
I'd like to see Zero-G figure skating.
Isn't that just floating?
You'd have to have kind of a globe made of ice, and people skate, inside it, I guess.
Isn't that a Dyson sphere?
I know.
Is that a?
I'm making this shit up.
Brian, what about you? What would you like to see?
I was talking about Rollerball. I'm not sure if you guys remember Rollerball. You might remember the movie Rollerball with the remake with LL Cool J, which is terrible and hilarious at the same time. But basically, it's a mixture of like motorcycles, say like basketball, a little bit of football. It is one of the more violent cult films that was really ever made, because you have to catch this ball and throw it into a thing. But like, all right, we're going to run you over though with motorcycles to get in our way. It's like, oh, okay, that's legal.
Whoa.
Oh, I thought of one. The Wipeout races from the Wipeout games.
Oh.
That would be really awesome. I'm a fan of Formula One. So Formula One with weapons and floating cars. Wins.
Well, if games are fair play, I want my submission to be Griffball.
Griffball?
Because why the hell not?
What is Griffball?
It's a Halo alternate game mode where everybody has hammers and swords, and the goal is to get an exploding ball into a basket before the round ends.
Oh.
Naturally, the ball explodes when you score the point.
Oh, okay. Alright. Cool.
How are you going to realize what the trend is? Some of our fantasy sports are kind of violent.
Yeah.
Brian, I just want to let you know that it's tradition in my fencing club. At the last session before Christmas, are you guys familiar with British Bulldog? The game?
Oh my god, British Bulldog. Yes.
I was going to say Davey Boy Smith, the pro wrestler.
But no, not the game, not the wrestler. But we play British Bulldog with swords.
Oh, I don't know what that is, but it sounds scary when you're involved.
It's fucking awesome. Basically, the rules go that you have a line of people on one side, and there's a guy on one side of a hall, and in the middle there is a person who is it, and he has to tag. You have to run from one side of the hall to the other and try not to get tagged, and the guy in the middle's job is to tag people as they run past.
With swords.
With swords. And if you get tagged, you become part of his team.
Oh, neat.
It sounds very familiar. Probably went by a different name over here.
No, we called it British Bulldog when I played it in Boy Scouts, and it almost always ended with arms through the wall.
Yeah, it's usually when I say tag someone, it's usually a bit more vigorous than that. You know, rugby tackles, that sort of thing.
Gosh.
Sounds about right.
We have a place not too far from where I live that does something called Demolition Ball. I don't know if they made it up or not. I feel like they made it up. But basically, you get into little bumper cars, and you've got these like little short lacrosse sticks. And there's like a ball going around on the floor, and you have to pick up the ball with the short lacrosse stick and get it into what is essentially like a little hole on a basketball backboard.
Huh.
It's sort of like Quidditch plus lacrosse plus bumper cars, and it is really fun.
That sounds awesome, actually.
Quidditch plus lacrosse plus bumper cars.
You had me at bumper cars.
It's really fun. You get into teams, and you got 3 to 4 people per team, and you're just sort of driving around. And it takes you have to concentrate because you're doing 3 things at once. You're watching out for the other cars, and you're trying to steer, and you're trying to get a ball. It's man, I didn't know that I could do all of those things at the same time.
Man, everybody's coming up with some really good suggestions for fictional sports they'd like to be real, and all I can think is that I want to see a real Mario Kart.
oh man. Yeah,
that would blow NASCAR out of the water. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. You're completely right. Real world Mario Kart would be hilarious.
It doesn't take a lot
and here's Jeff Gordon coming around the final turn. It looks like it's his race. Oh, Dale Earnhardt Jr. just fired off a blue shell. It's over, folks.
Yeah, the Formula One fan over here is trying desperately not to say something mean about NASCAR, lest a bunch of Americans come over and kill me.
Next question comes from Carly, and it is for Skyblaze, and by extension, all of the Whovians, so basically all of us. What your thoughts were on this year's Doctor Who Christmas special?
I thought it was a bit rushed. It had some really nice moments in it. There were some really kind of nice emotional things in it. And Matt Smith was fucking great, because he's always amazing. But after the 50th anniversary, I felt it felt a bit flat. And it felt like they were trying to stuff about half a season worth of plot into that time slot. And it was a bit too much to shove in there. Also, I think, in all honesty, Moffat had put his blood, sweat and tears into the 50th anniversary and had burnt himself out, and he didn't have enough left to really do the Christmas special justice. So I feel it could have done... It was okay, but it was frustrating because it could have been a hell of a lot better.
Okay.
That's really hard to disagree with, because that's kind of how I felt about it. I don't want to say I felt let down, but I definitely felt like there wasn't enough of a payoff. Because it's like the big thing. And to have that 50th anniversary, which is so epic, and it's on such a huge scale, and so much went into that, and to have such it just like the Christmas special felt like it was so small by comparison. Like, it didn't feel grand. It didn't feel special enough.
Yeah.
The biggest problem I had with it was that there was too much telling and not enough showing for large chunks of it. Like, all that time that the Doctor spent on that planet, in the town called Christmas. We had these big, kids' book style narration bits where there wasn't... I mean, the entire war, the entire battle of Trenzalore basically was summed up as a narration, and they fought a lot, and the Silence fought alongside the Doctor, and it was really badass. You should have seen it.
And we're like, yeah, I wish I did.
And I kind of feel like if they had cut a few other things to make more room for, that. Like, for instance, there was really no particular reason for the Weeping Angels and the Sontarans to be there, and arguably even the Cybermen could have been trimmed down a little bit without affecting the story, because it was really about the Doctor, the Silence, and the Daleks at the end of the day. I mean, I guess they wanted to have, like, the little... what's the term I'm looking for? The little... There's like four major enemies that have kind of characterized Matt Smith's era. The Daleks, the Cybermen, because, they get a free pass, and the Weeping Angels and the Silence. Those have kind of been like the big four bads of Matt Smith's entire turn as the Doctor, and I guess they kind of wanted to acknowledge all of them, but I don't know, it felt forced to me. The Weeping Angels in particular felt really forced being there.
I really felt like the whole thing was just confusing. I never really felt like I had a grasp of what was going on, and when I did know what was going on, I didn't understand why it was happening. It's sort of like Skyblaze said. It was like they tried to put like too much into one thing, and it just comes off as feeling really forced and incomprehensible. But I still enjoyed it for the most part. It was too much too fast. But who else is totally stoked for Peter Capaldi now?
Oh my god.
Like, swear to God, even though that regeneration was like kind of a huge cop-out, still, like, my favorite part of it was like, yes, Peter Capaldi!
Don't panic, but do you know how to fly this thing?
I actually liked the regeneration, the actual regeneration itself, better than anything else in the entire episode. He took his bow tie off, and we were all sad.
See, my biggest issue with the Christmas special was I didn't see how it fit in the larger. I couldn't figure out how when you stack it up against the larger narrative of Matt Smith's run, like the whole prophecy and the Siege of Trenzalore. When you add in the Christmas special, suddenly things get really fucking confusing, and I think that Moffat really kind of dropped the ball on that right there at the end, which is really disappointing because it seemed to me like he was setting up for something really big, and I felt kind of let down. I did like the fact that it was the bit at the very end where Matt Smith is saying goodbye. It felt very much like Matt Smith writing a love letter to the fans and the production, saying, thanks for having me, thanks for being with me. I know, Tenet was a tough act to follow, but you gave me a fair shot, and I've had a lot of fun with it. And oh god, I was tearing up when Amy Pond showed up right there at the end.
Oh my god, that was like the moment where I actually legitimately cried. Everything else, because I didn't feel like the payoff was enough, it didn't really stir me. I wasn't really I feel like I was really ready for Matt Smith to go, and I was excited, and then Amy Pond shows up, and I lose my shit.
Brian, you've been pretty quiet.
I can sum up my feelings pretty much in a sentence. I loved how Matt Smith said goodbye, and everything before it made no goddamn sense. The end.
Okay. Well, she's got a second question. Matt Smith's run has brought back a lot of classic Doctor Who villains and monsters. What are some other classic monsters you'd like to see brought back, and what are a few that you'd like to see go away for a while? So, Skyblaze, let's start with you. What's a classic Doctor Who villain or monster you'd like to see brought back?
Well, they brought back the Zygons for the 50th, which I was squeeful about. Let's see. They've done the Great Intelligence. Well, they haven't really done the Yeti. They have done the Great Intelligence, but they haven't really done the Yeti.
Wait,
so they had Snowman instead.
The Great Intelligence was a classic villain?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
When? I don't remember that.
Well, you're new.
Touché, Brian. Touché. Well played, sir. See, I can take my licks on the chin.
Trying to remember what the first episode is. I think it's the Abominable Snowman, which I think is Second Doctor, and then Web of Fear. Web of Fear is the first time that you meet the Brigadier, I believe.
Okay. So what classic monster did you say you wanted them to bring back?
As I said, they've already kind of done the Zygons, and I was a bit disappointed that they didn't do a bit more with them, because I really like the Zygons as a concept. I kind of want them to do more with the Movellans, who were in because they've only ever appeared once. But they're an interesting idea. Let's see if I can actually... They were in a really rubbish episode, actually, because they were in Destiny of the Daleks? Yeah, Destiny of the Daleks. And they are there was a massive war between the Movellans and the Daleks, and they nearly wiped each other out. And the Movellans actually developed a plague that killed the Dalek creatures. And they haven't appeared since. And it's a fucking shame, but the only time that these great enemies of the Daleks have got an appearance is in a kind of rubbish episode. But the idea is that they're androids that are perfectly logical. And they are not friends with the Daleks. And I really want to see more done with them, so get on that, BBC.
Okay. And what's the monster you'd like to see go away for a while?
I'm getting kind of bored of the Silence. I didn't think they were that interesting to start with, and they kind of have been done into the ground. They're a really interesting idea, but they're not interesting enough to carry all this shit that they're doing. And their origin is really fucking confused now. Whose fucking side are they on? Who the fuck knows?
So, Are you suggesting that they're not very memorable?
Very funny.
That was terrible. I love it.
Okay. Brian, what about you?
I don't have much knowledge because I'm also still new to the fandom about some of the classic monsters, so I'll pass on. I do. You may agree with me, Gonzos. I believe the Weeping Angels might need a timeout for a little bit.
Thank you.
They were kind of, yeah. I mean, I still sort of enjoy them, but they are been showing up way more often than probably should. So it's like, all right, time. Go to your corner, chill out for a while.
Okay, John, what about you?
Well, again, I haven't seen nearly as many episodes as, say, Skyblaze or some of the other folks. So I can't think of too many obscure monsters that I can think of that I'd like to see come back. However, I can think of a very non-obscure monster that I would like to see get a really good, another really good storyline. And that's actually the Daleks, because I don't feel like we've had as many good Dalek storylines since the 10th Doctor. And on top of that, I feel like the Daleks have been focused a lot more on their just lust for wanton destruction, and less on their deviousness and cleverness, because one of the things about the Daleks in the original series was that they could be very manipulative. And they actually were capable of subtlety and cleverness and traps. And we've gotten a little bit of that back with the 11th Doctor when we kind of lacked it with the 10th. But they haven't been used except as, supporting characters in big, group cast enemy things as much. So I'd kind of like to see another really good episode with them as the primary focus. As for monsters that I feel could go away for a little while, everybody's kind of hit on most of my major ones, because I also feel like the Weeping Angels are being played out, and they've never been as scary as they were in their first appearance.
They never will be again.
Nope. And the Silence have...
Thank God Almighty for that.
Because I like sleeping at night.
The Silence have also been kind of misutilized for such a really good concept. I have to say that one that I think needs to possibly go back and be rethought slightly, and people may disagree with me on this one, is actually the Cybermen. I appreciate what Neil Gaiman was trying to do with them with their technical upgrades and trying to make them, more of a viable threat. But to me, the most potentially scary thing about the Cybermen is not the amount of tech and firepower they have, nor the fact that their hands can crawl around and do stuff on their own, though that was kind of cool. The best psychological thing about the Cybermen is the fact that they're human beings, or were once human beings, who've been stripped down, have been stripped of everything that was human about them, and put in these mechanical shells. That concept is actually genuinely disturbing to me, and again, it's not something that's really been played with since the 10th Doctor Cyberman episodes. If they really want to make the Cybermen creepy to people again, I think they should focus more on that and less on, their laser power or them adapting to the phasers. Adapting to the firepower that's being lobbed at them. So, yeah, I'll say maybe the Cybermen need to go back to the drawing board for a little bit.
Okay.
Also, I thought of another classic monster that they really ought to bring back because they're really awesome and terrifying.
And who's that?
The Hemivores.
Ah, you stole mine. I was going to say the Hemivores and Fenric.
Yeah.
Oh, I actually thought of a different classic Doctor Who.
You had your turn.
Actually, now I've got
Brendan's turn now.
Oh man, I've got like 3 or 4 warring in my head right now.
Yeah, well, we do have a timetable, so Brendan, go ahead.
I'm sort of with John in that I haven't seen a whole lot of the older episodes.
That needs to be fixed.
It probably does, doesn't it?
Yes.
Well, okay, all right. I'm sorry. I'll show myself to the pain glove on the way out. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and nod my head in agreement with everyone that the Weeping Angels need to go, sit on a shelf somewhere and gather dust for a little while. Because they are definitely being sandwiched in for no apparent reason in places where maybe thematically it would make more sense for them not to be there. So, Angels need to take a break, and I'm going to throw my hands up in the air and take a pass on the monster that needs to come back for now, because I don't have much in the way of ideas.
Okay. Kat, what about you? Monster or villain you'd like to see come back?
I would like to see the Hemivores again. That would be really cool. This is not a monster, but a villain that really needs to come back. I think it's about time for the Master to come back in. With the return of Gallifrey, I think we're good. We can bring the Master back now.
Please, for the love of God, have him played by somebody else, though.
Well, surely. I mean, I think if they bring him back, they're going to have to make him match Peter Capaldi's age a little bit better, so...
Yeah, that's what I mean. It needs to match the current Doctor. I mean, John Sim worked fine as a foil for the 10th, because the kind of point of the Master was that he was a dark reflection of the Doctor. So it worked for the 10th, but not so much for the current Doctor.
Okay.
He needs to have a goatee again, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And a monster you'd like to see go away for a while?
The Silence. I think they've long since outstayed their welcome.
Okay. Well, a bunch of people have already said my monster that need to go away, and that's the Weeping Angels. So I'll just give the villain that I want to see come back. I want to see the meddling monk come back. I think with some good script writers, we could get a good modern spin on the meddling monk.
There was some really awesome audios that actually had him in, and they were fucking brilliant.
So, although I don't know if since Kat said the Master, I think they'd almost have to kind of do one or the other. I don't really think you can have both of them running around at the same time.
Unless they worked together.
I suppose. That would be interesting to see.
Please excuse me, I have a fan fiction to write.
And then they kissed.
I'm not that bad, fuck you.
Okay.
I'm just imagining Sky Blaze writing this fanfiction now.
Alright. Let's see, do we have time for one more, or...
Sure, because we're probably not going to have headlines, so might as well have more Ask a Geek.
Okay, we'll do a couple more. Alright, well, let me dig through my pile here. Okay, here's one. Alright, this is from Craig. He asks, with the Lego movie coming out, what are some other toy properties that you think would make good films? I don't know. See, the thing about Lego is that because it's something that relies mostly on the imagination of the player. I think that's something that you could very easily build a movie off of. I think Battleship has kind of proved, though, that that's not really something that can be done with a lot of toy properties.
Clue, yes. Battleship, no.
I don't know. A Clue remake might be funny.
No, shut up. No, shut up, you. Shut up.
Brian has feelings.
They're very strong.
Brian has thoughts on this subject.
Well, I mean, one, I don't think a Clue remake would be funny, so shut up. Two, we've already had some toy movies, and they've not been very good. The G.I. Joe and Transformers, even though like the second G.I. Joe movie was, quote, better than the first one, it still wasn't considered a good film.
Yeah, I was about to say
Transformers is there.
I don't know, man.
Who else? I don't really know what other Like, I mean, you could say maybe Ninja Turtles, but that was always started as a comic, and don't you ever fucking forget it, people.
See, the Transformers movies, like, I hate Michael Bay for putting out that trailer at the Super Bowl and showing off the Dinobots, because that is the only thing that he could have done that have got me back into the movies. Just when I thought I was free, he pulls me back in. Damn you, Michael Bay!
A tight
Gonzo, you know it's going to be a horrible, horrible waste of the characters. Don't put yourself through this shit.
Yeah, it's only going to make
certainly
you hate
he's going to put some sort of ableist bullshit regarding, like, oh, they're retarded or some shit, and it's going to be horrendous, and you are going to want to throw things at the screen.
But it's
and truth be told, like, even
see it.
Well, no, even
it's not really Grimlock. If it's not voiced by Greg Berger, I am not fucking interested.
We've seen, like, it's the fourth time now. It's like, I feel like the bag of tricks is empty. The magician, we see the strings.
Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, go fuck you, Michael Bay.
Pay no attention to the hack behind the curtain.
So going back, there's not... If there is sort of a toy franchise that could go out to become a movie, I think it would have to be, I don't know, maybe this will never happen, but stick firmly with animation or something. Something you could sort of get away with, quote unquote, and have a little bit more leeway, because I don't really feel like seeing The Rock as He-Man anytime soon.
Please tell me you're joking.
That is a joke.
Okay.
But how many people would believe it?
See, the thing is, like, ever since Michael Bay was announced as directing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, there's very little that someone could say regarding toy-related moves that I would not just
actually
believe.
That's a mistake, Gonzo. He is in fact not the director of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. He is just the producer, which means basically nothing because he still has his handprints all over it.
Oh well, I do have to say this. Have you seen the character designs of the Ninja Turtles that were put out put out this week?
You mean with their terrifying noses and horrifying lips?
And the fact that they look like 30-year-old, they don't look like teenagers. God damn it! This is like the one thing that pisses me off the most about it is that they don't look like teenagers. They look like roid-raging 30-year-old bodybuilders.
And not only that,
even looked lest I kill things.
Yeah, well, here's my big problem is that they don't kind of look like teenagers. Truth be told, even in the cartoons and the comics, they've actually never quote looked like teenagers. But their bulk makes no sense for martial artists. Like if you go and look at martial artists, either movie acting martial artists or martial artist competitions, you don't normally see a dude, with shoulders out, arms akimbo, and a chest the size of Montana. That's not how martial art usually works. They're built, but they're also sort of lean. So I don't know how any of those guys are going to do a kick without falling over on themselves because they can't stretch.
This is a good point, Brian, because you can't move properly with shoulders like that.
Can I just point out the absurdity of trying to apply real-world logic to Teenage Mutant fucking Ninja Turtles?
This is what happens when they shit on our childhood. This is what happens.
The fact of the matter is, suspension of disbelief has a weight limit.
Also,
and that weight limit is a chest the size of Montana.
Yeah, chest the size of Montana, and I have no life, and this is things I think about.
You're a nerd, of course you do.
You have to nerd rage.
Also, can I just say that I'd kind of like to hear someone do like a 30-year-old alien turn Ninja Turtles to like the theme of the original theme song, the tune of the original theme. I can't figure out a way to make it fit within the meter, but someone out there can do it.
There you go.
Because they're stylized to be more samurai than ninja. And
okay, so they're samurai now.
Turtles, God damn it!
So now it's like middle-aged alien samurai turtles,
bodybuilder turtles.
God,
you're in the half shell. Wait, my back.
Speaking of the Ninja Turtles, have you guys caught have you guys been able to catch the current Ninja Turtles cartoon running on Nickelodeon?
No.
It is actually
When it's-
really good.
I can't.
I
I
haven't yet.
I work every fucking morning. They decide to show it, so I've missed, I think, the entire first season. So, no. I know that Rob Paulson does a voice of it, which I find ironic, because he used to do the voice of the original Raphael, and now he's Donatello.
He's voicing a different turtle now. I think that's hilarious.
2 more shows, and maybe he'll do the whole set.
Maybe.
Gotta catch 'em all.
He's like 3 more and I get to be split.
No, it's really good, and if you ever have the chance to catch it, I strongly suggest you do so.
I will say, based on what I have seen of it, which is very little, this probably has my favorite character design of Splinter of any of them that I've seen so far. He looks awesome in the new show.
Okay, then.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I really like Splinter. Rats are fantastic.
Okay. And next question here.
No, that's cool. We'll take your word for it.
Okay. Next question here is from Sherry, and it is actually for Brendan. And she writes, as a fellow she writes, as a fellow car nut, how stoked are you for the Need for Speed movie?
Ooh.
Do you have a need for speed? Sorry. I'm gonna run that joke into the ground.
Well, I'll admit, having seen the trailer that they aired during the Super Bowl, I'm a little more stoked than I was before. I honestly did not have very high expectations, given some of the other trailers I'd seen. It honestly looked, like something I would not want to be stuck in a theater watching for 2.5 hours, or however long it ends up being. But I think, if nothing else, it looks pretty. Might be fun to go, squee over all the automotive awesomeness. I mean, plot, obviously, it's just going to be an excuse to move us from one cool car to the next. And, I don't know, maybe that's the way it should be. I'm not super stoked, but I'm sitting up and paying attention. So, let's put it that way.
See, when I first heard they were making a Need for Speed movie, my first thought was, didn't they already do that and call it The Fast and the Furious?
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Waggity schmaggity doo.
We're the worst stand-up audience.
I know you're out there. I can hear you typing.
I hate you all. I hate you all. Can I just say that?
Well, we are terrible people.
You
Yeah,
are.
that's true.
We know this to be true.
Okay. And, okay, let's do one more here. Gotta get in here. Okay, here is a question from Alex for all of us. If you could possess one fictional weapon, what would it be? So, Skyblaze, as our resident armorer, let's have you go first.
She's gonna die answering
But
this
I
question.
have so many to choose. Oh, what do I pick? Oh no.
She may be broken now. Do we have a return policy on our Skyblaze?
Doesn't work on international orders.
Damn it.
Ooh.
If I had a Keyblade, not only would I have an awesome weapon with magical powers, I could also open any lock.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have one of those, please.
Okay. Alright. Brendan, what about you?
We're counting giant robots as vehicles rather than weapons for the purposes of this exercise, right?
Right.
Okay. Just checking, because that'd be my answer if it were legal, but it's not. So I think I'll go with... Damn, carbine or shotgun? I'll go with a Covenant carbine from the Halo series, then.
Okay. Brian, what about you?
Could I take the Infinity Gauntlet, put it on, and then I could put the Green Lantern rings over the Infinity Gauntlet?
I was gonna ask if the Green Lantern ring would work.
I was gonna ask if the Infinity Gauntlet counted. Damn it!
I've taken them all. So yeah, I'm just going to take that overpowered piece of shit right there. Infinity Gauntlet plus the Green Lantern rings.
It's the Infinity Gauntlet, man. You can do whatever you want. God, I don't know. Does a wand from the Harry Potter series count as a weapon?
Yeah, sure, we'll go with that.
We'll allow it.
Okay, in that case, I want a freaking Harry Potter wand that actually works, and to be a wizard, and to know all the magics. All the magics.
All the magics.
Congratulations, you're now a teenage girl.
Yay!
I always wanted to be one of those.
Okay.
I have magic, I don't give a shit what I am.
Okay, Kat, what about you?
Well, since they took Harry Potter, and I was gonna talk about Green Lantern,
Surely there's some ludicrous weapon from anime that you can steal.
Sailor Moon's tiara?
Oh, not the tiara, but the transformation wand. You have to. Well, the brooch, which is and then you do the things. I don't know how I feel about those short skirts though, but that kind of was like my childhood dream was to be like Sailor Moon. So, I will go with the Sailor Moon, the Crescent Moon wand.
Okay.
Although I would accept Excalibur. I would take Excalibur. That would be awesome.
Damn! Everyone's stealing my answers tonight. I was going to show off my literature cred by picking Excalibur. All right, but no, since
that could also be from anime too, and you could pick the Soul Eater character Excalibur, and then he would just sing at you, and that's pretty obnoxious.
Well, I've never seen Soul Eater. So
oh my god, you need to go watch the parts with Excalibur. You'll never want to.
Get in line. My girlfriend's already force feeding me Sailor Moon.
Well,
so you will have to wait your turn. All right. Well, let's see. If I had to pick one fictional weapon, let's see. Excalibur's already been taken. I really don't want to pick another sword. You know what? I want Captain America's shield. I want Captain America's mighty shield.
Good pick.
I just feel like you would throw it would come back and just hit you in the face. I don't know why I feel like that.
And then we would laugh because we are terrible people.
and we'll have other swords and stuff, and so he can't hurt us.
I hate you all. I hate you all. I hate you all.
You love us.
No, I just can't get a better staff.
Well, hey, you could pick a wizard staff, like Gandalf's staff or something.
It has a knob on the end. Sorry.
Okay, moving on.
I'm a terrible person.
See, I'm like staffs and knobs. We're talking about dicks.
Well done, Kat. Well done.
I have to state the obvious for those who didn't pay attention.
Don't explain the joke, Kat.
Alright.
Some people find out the humor.
Our last question comes from Paul and all of us, and he writes simply, new Godzilla movie. Who's excited?
Nobody. Oh,
wow.
Are you excited? I'm not sure. Quick. I'm not.
Just nobody. What about nobody? Okay.
So
no, am I the only one here who's excited about the new Godzilla movie?
Yes.
I'm more confused because he's ginormous now, like bigger than ever. I don't think Godzilla's ever been that huge. Plus, the trailer was really weird because you just saw parachuting dudes. I thought it was Call of Duty, the movie.
Yeah. At first time I saw the trailer, I seriously thought it was a Call of Duty movie. Then Godzilla showed up. My first thought was, okay, we've got 5 paratroopers against Godzilla. What the hell do they expect them to do?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that's
that would
what
make
they're
a
thinking.
really excellent Call of Duty game. Let's be honest. It would be like a Call of Duty Tokyo Raid or something, and it would be like they have to stop Godzilla.
Attack on Godzilla.
You know what? If Activision actually did that, if they made a Call of Duty game where you actually legit fought Godzilla, I would take back everything I ever said about Call of Duty being an unoriginal piece of shit. I would trumpet that would be Game of the Year right there.
He would lose constantly because it's the army versus Godzilla. Even the guys falling through the sky, when they finally look over, like, is that a giant fucking lizard? We're dead. We're dead. We're dead. I'm not even pulling a shoot.
What's that?
You play as Godzilla.
Didn't that game exist and wasn't it called Rampage?
Was it?
Oh,
yep.
Rampage.
Rampage is amazing.
I'm talking like back in the 80s here. I am showing my fucking age again.
That's okay, I was thinking the same thing.
Oh, thank God for that.
We were thinking, God, she's showing her age.
Fuck you, Cat.
It was there, I took it. I'm so sorry, please don't kill me.
Wow, people are just singing each other here tonight.
This is how you know we're all glad to be back. Like, all together.
Yep.
This is how we show our love to each other, by viciously destroying each other emotionally.
Just like a real family.
Okay. But that's all the Ask a Geek questions that we have for this week. As always, you can send them to us through the email at billysmith@channelawesome.com or drop them in the Ask a Geek thread in the That Guy with the Glasses forums. Personally, we'd prefer you send them to us through email. It's a little easier for us to keep track of which ones we've answered. So, yeah, and we don't really have headlines this week, so we're going to take a quick music break. When we come back, Gargoyles! We're all going to have a nice little nostalgia-gasm, so stay tuned. We got a lot of fun stuff ahead.
Getting old and a bit rusty and nobody liked him. One day, being very bored, he thought it would be a good idea to tidy up all his old programs in his dusty old data bank. There were tapes in there he hadn't played for years. Checking them through, he accidentally pushed a wrong button and suddenly he heard,
Marvin, I love you. Marvin, I love you.
Well, he was sure he hadn't heard that ever before. He wasn't even sure he'd heard it that time, because being a bored and gloomy robot, he hadn't really been listening. What was worse, he couldn't remember what button he'd accidentally pressed. Anyway, he tried a few switches at random and suddenly...
Marvin, I love you. Marvin, I love you. Remember, I'm programmed for you. I know we're worlds apart. Still you could break my heart. Loving you is all I can do.
Well, he heard it that time, all right, no doubt about it. Who was singing these strange words? Was it another robot or some strange life form from the distant past when he was a young robot and people still made the occasional attempt to like him? He couldn't make it out at all, so he pushed a few buttons again.
Marvin, I love you. Marvin, I love you.
That was it.
I tried to contact Marvin. I don't know why, but he never replied. Perhaps one day he'll answer. Till then, I guess I'll keep on trying. Marvin, I love you. Marvin, I love you. Remember, I'm programmed for you.
Does not compute, he thought miserably, but at least he knew where to find it in his data bank. From then on, he could play it whenever he wanted, think about what he'd missed, and live miserably ever after.
Marvin, I love you. Marvin, I love you. Remember, I'm programmed for you. I know we're worlds apart. Still you could break my heart. Loving you is all I can do. Marvin, I love you.
Alright, and we are back, and our collective worlds were rocked earlier this week when it was announced that the entirety of the 90s Gargoyles series was actually made available on YouTube legally for full streaming. And I can tell you that, for me at least, the announcement was presaged by a shrill, high-pitched squealing sound. Kat, I think that was you?
Not only did she start squealing, she slipped into Muppet mode.
So, as you can tell, most of us are big Gargoyles fans here, and this is kind of exciting. So we thought it'd be fun to kind of take a look back at a show that kind of shaped a lot of our childhoods. So, Kat, as our resident Gargoyle nut, why don't you give those of us not lucky enough to have grown up with this series a brief synopsis of the show?
All right. Well, there is a clan of gargoyles who were from... are they from Scotland? I always felt like that was Scotland they were originally from. Who, through a curse, yada, 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 they end up in... I want to say modern day, but it's almost futuristic. Modern future, no specific time period, New York. Where the curse is broken and they come back to life. And awesomeness ensues. They befriend a policewoman. What was her name? Eliza, is it?
I don't know. I didn't watch the show.
Eliza?
It's not Eliza. That is. I know that for a fact.
Eliza.
Alicia?
We're gonna sit here going...
Here's an idea. How about we ask Professor Wikipedia?
When you enunciate Wikipedia, it sounds way more dirty than it should be.
Wikipedia.
Okay, I'm out. Good night, guys. See you later.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
It's just like making sure you pronounce her name right. Is it? Jesus fuck, give me the human people. Where are the humans? It's all gargoyles. God damn it. I can't even find her on the fucking thing.
Shouldn't she be the first human character? She's the main human character?
Jesus.
This is all staying in the show, by the way.
Elisa Maza. There we go. I knew her last name was something different. Okay, so anyway, they befriend a policewoman named Elisa Maza, and they sort of get into trouble. They're the beginning of it is a lot of here's this new world we have to adjust to, and that's kind of fun. But there is the on again, off again, mostly villains. Sometimes they work with him. Antagonist Xanatos, who is played by Jonathan Frakes, because everybody from Star Trek: The Next Generation is fucking in this show.
Except Patrick Stewart. I was always disappointed.
Yeah, that would have been way too good. They would have had to pay him too much money. I'm sure.
I don't know, because the reason what's so funny, the reason it was all Star Trek people is that they got Deanna Troi. No, they got Jonathan Frakes, and they're like, hey, do you know anyone else that can come on? It's like, oh, all right, I'll ask my friend. And they just kept asking all their other Star Trek The Next Generation castmates, and that's how they all got on the show.
Not just Next Gen, there's also Avery Brooks, who was Captain Sisko in DS9, and Kate Mulgrew, who was Captain Janeway in Voyager.
Oh my god, everybody is in this show.
The only ones they're missing were if they got Shatner, Stewart, and Bakula, they would have had a full set.
And it would have been spectacular. But so it's a great show for a lot of us kids growing up in the 90s. It was the first sort of dark themed cartoon, because everything else is it's all anthropomorphic animals running around, and they're very goofy, with no real recurring plot. Whereas Gargoyles actually had a lot of plot in it. It had a lot of character development. It did a lot, and it hearkened a great deal to various mythologies. So a lot of us kids were like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen, and it was just the best.
Well, okay then.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
it's something I've kind of noticed. This show kind of came out around the same time as the Batman animated series. Do you think that the show was kind of produced to kind of compete with that, or do you think it was more of kind of reactionary things like, oh, this other show is proving that kid shows can be taken seriously? Do you think we should follow up on this?
I don't know, because I don't know enough about how Batman went. And like who was
in a word, awesomely.
Well, yeah, and then who was like directing and producing and stuff. It could have been, for all I know. I don't really know the history of the production of Gargoyles, other than that it began and was there after Awesome.
Well, I have some of the DVDs, and it's been a while. I think I remember a lot of it when the creator, Greg Wiseman, was just trying to get a show sort of off the ground. And we were slowly approaching what I considered like sort of the golden age of afternoon cartoon shows. Like Batman, the animated series, eventually Spider-Man, then you had like Animaniacs, and Gargoyles was sort of right there with them as well. And there was also a new sort of TV station, I'm not sure if anyone remembers it, UPN. I am showing my age, if you guys remember UPN.
Yeah.
I remember UPN.
So, like, yeah, so UPN was around, and they sort of needed programming, and they got some of, I think they didn't get the Disney Afternoon. Disney had Disney Afternoon, but they were just looking around going, hey, we need stuff. And Disney kind of said, they came with Disney, it's like, do you have anything? It's like, well, we don't have anything, but we have this guy over here who's been really trying to push this show. So it was a little bit sort of back and forth, like, yeah, we'll give it to you, there was a lot of risk taking involved, that's why I consider it sort of the golden age, a lot of these risks sort of paid off. And so he just sort of got it made from that way. And I don't know if it's a reaction to Batman, but I think it was more of a reaction that it was the time where studios were like, all right, let's kind of see where this goes. Let's see what happens. It's no skin off our nose. We're Disney. We'll make it up with a feature. So something along the lines of that. I'm pretty sure there's like a historian out there yelling at me like, you missed this, you missed that. Yes, I know. I don't remember things good.
Okay. All right. So what were some of the major strengths of this series? What were some of the things that made it stand out from other shows of the period?
They said hell in their first episode or second episode.
yeah, seriously, like David Xanatos, right off the bat, he's like, pay a man enough and he'll walk barefoot through hell, and you're like, whoa!
That's rather risque.
Even Batman wouldn't say hell in the show.
So, yeah, that helped. That set a tone. I want to keep watching this show. They curse.
I think one of the really cool things about it was that it had a lot of flashbacks, and those flashbacks were in a period setting. So while we had what is our kind of modern, kind of future New York, because there was like technology in it that doesn't exist in present time, and that's why it can't be, like real present day New York. But anyway, but like the whole, like, they're flashing back to a medieval era, and there's accents and there's costumes and all of that I thought was really neat. And then a lot of the mythology that they end up bringing up into it, with like Oberon and Puck and all that stuff in later parts, I thought it was all really neat. There really wasn't anything else like that.
Yeah, I was about to say, actually, let's also... Hang on, I think I'm echoing again. Okay. I was about to say, actually, let's also touch on the fact that this is a kid's, like, fantasy action / sci-fi show with its, future 90s New York. Which also has, like, frickin' Shakespearean themes all over the place. You've got Macbeth and, of course, Oberon and Titania. And I've heard a lot of people who grew up on that show say that it actually got them into Shakespeare when they were kids. And I can't think of higher praise for an animated series than that.
It definitely felt way story-driven. Not necessarily... Like, you have a lot of some shows would be very action driven. Just it sort of get to one scene, get to one scene, get to one scene. The episode is over. This was very story driven. It's we're gonna plant some seeds here, and they're going to sprout. Maybe next episode, maybe 2 episodes from now, maybe the next season, and it was never it almost never felt like rushed or off-putting. It felt very natural. It was very natural writing that went into a lot of the episodes and a lot of the characters. And another reason I think everyone sort of kept watching it is that, yeah, they had good storytelling because you also had some really good characters to follow around.
And also, I remember, I only saw a few episodes, but I remember it dealing with some kind of heavy themes, too. Like, the one that sticks out in my mind is, I guess, the gun safety episode, where one of the gargoyles winds up accidentally shooting Elisa with her pistol, and winds up I remember watching that and thinking, this is even as a kid going, this is kind of a little over my age group's head here.
Yeah.
That one, I was surprised even as a kid by that one. Not just because they handled the gun thing, which there are a lot of animated shows out there that have tried to do a very special episode of blah 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 where they try to tackle something serious it's usually something like drugs, because that kind of became such a big crusade that it almost became a safe topic for animated cartoons to deal with because everybody wanted to tell kids not to do drugs. But guns is kind of a rarer one, and it's also rare for them to deal with it so realistically. I mean, I remember when she got shot, there was actually blood. And, you
can't even put blood on television in most shows.
Seriously, you never, ever, ever would see that in any other cartoon. I remember an episode of Static Shock, of all things, that tried to do the gun control, or not gun control, but gun safety. The gun safety thing, and it didn't handle it half as well or realistically as Gargoyles did. I remember.
Well, keep going.
What was the name of Static Shock's sidekick? The guy who had all the
Gear?
techie stuff. Yeah, Gear. Thank you. I remember specifically when Gear got shot. First of all, it was bloodless, and he goes down and he goes, "Oh, it hurts! It's not like how it is on TV." And I'm like,
no, it's exactly how it is on TV.
And that's the first thing you say when you get shot. Not, holy shit, I've been shot. It's not like on TV.
However any of you happen to feel about Static Shock, pro or con, that was a bad episode and it should feel bad.
But no, I do remember the gun episode now because that was I forget who shot her, unfortunately, but that also became his thing. He became anytime any point of the gun, he would flip his shit. He's like, "This sucks," and would break the gun in front of the criminals, and we're done.
It was it was Broadway. That's who shot her.
Oh, okay.
It was. I had to stop and think about it because I kept going. My brain kept fighting between Brooklyn and Lexington. I'm no, that wasn't his name. That wasn't his name. That wasn't his name. Broadway. There you go.
You only have a few landmarks to go through to remember them all.
Yeah, seriously, right?
I think Goliath was the only one that wasn't named after a New York landmark, wasn't he?
Yeah, because
he was the only one that had a name at the beginning. I think it was him and Demona.
Well, Demona got a name later.
Yeah.
But the whole thing was that only the leader of the clan had a name. Everybody else was nameless because there's that sense of equality. And then only when they were reawakened, they're well, I guess we can have names now because fuck all.
No, this
is totally not Scotland.
I think the line of dialogue was, "Does the river have a name? Yeah, we call it the Hudson." Well, crap.
Well, fine, I'll be the Hudson then. Ed Asner rumbles.
Yeah, Ed Asner was in that show.
Huh?
He was
Sorry,
also
my voice actor mind got blown for a second.
That tends to happen when you look at that show and you're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this person was also this person."
Now, I've also been told that one of the things that made the series stand out was that even though the villains were, of course, villains, they weren't two-dimensional. They actually had subtlety and nuance to them, and in some cases were actually very sympathetic. So, is that true?
I think to a point, yeah. I mean, it really depends on the villain. You actually had a few, or one, Fox. She started out, she was a big bad, and then slowly sort of came around. She had this sort of reverse journey because she married Xanatos, and then they had a son, and their son was a wizard. Spoilers.
Spoilers. Fox is not who she appears.
The show's almost 20 years old. I think the statute of limitations passed.
But you did, because there was always like Macbeth. I remember Macbeth's like whole deal. Because first off, you saw an episode which was just the play Macbeth, and then you saw the quote unquote aftermath and how he survived all those years. But I think some of the villains were great, but then some of the villains started getting really old, like the Pack. Like I kind of got sick of them after a while. I think that's what they were. They were Pack. They were like
the Pack.
They were like they all had like animal names, and they would like kind of be their animals, and like they would always show up in like they show up. They're like, it's the Pack, and my response would be, again. Don't they have anything else to do?
The one thing that one of the few things that I remember about the show, because like I said, I only caught like a few episodes here and there, but wasn't there one episode where like Demona, like they finally show her evidence that humans weren't responsible for the death of her clan or something, and she's just like, no, don't take away my hate, it's all I have left, or something along those lines?
Demona was definitely one of the more complex villains. Her whole life was really fucked up, and she was very bitter about it. And you do have some sympathy for, like, once you see her backstory and everything, and how she survived through all the ages, and you're like, God, that really sucks to be her. Because she was basically alone for a long time. And, knowing that, and she was, of course, in love with Goliath. And so the love of her life was taken from her. And she was just alone for a very long time. And so it really did suck to be Demona. And she, it was really neat to see her backstory and see why she ended up so messed up.
Which, for those of us who don't know the story, is what precisely?
It's way too complicated to explain.
Yeah, you remember me mentioning Macbeth earlier?
Yeah. There's a whole thing. Shakespeare wrote this episode.
The main thing to remember is, the one things I do remember is that she and Macbeth were linked forever, and they couldn't die unless they killed one another.
Yeah.
And she took so much fucking advantage of that. Like, Macbeth has like, I really just want to die. You know how old I technically am? I really want to die.
Because she was like the one gargoyle of their clan who wasn't there when the curse took place. So she lived on, even though everyone else was either smashed to bits or permanently stone. And so she sort of like lived on alone, and then met Macbeth. And then there was the stuff with the three witches or whatever. Everyone sees them differently. And that basically they linked Macbeth and Demona together, and she took some of his youth, and then they both became kind of immortal. Which it does not make any sense, because this is Shakespeare. But yeah, it's interesting to see her throughout the series, because there also happens to be a thing later where she becomes human during the day and a gargoyle at night, and that wrecks her. And then she later, once she gets more emotionally stable about it, takes advantage of it. So she's always the one where it's like bad shit happens to her, and she kind of gets over it and like does terrible things with it. But there's like parts of her that you can tell she's still in love with Goliath, and if she had her way, they would be together, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. What other notable villains or characters were present in this series?
Well, Xanatos is like the first real villain, because he's actually the one who ends up breaking the curse. What?
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, I was kind of surprised that we'd actually made it this far without talking about Xanatos very much.
Because Xanatos is just as complex as every other fucking character. Because it's like, yeah, he releases them. He's kind of a bad guy at first, And then, as the series continues, it changes and changes.
He's sort of like the revolving door of good guy, bad guy, where he's mostly an antagonist, but they have to work together a lot, and they just sort of look at him and they're like, getting real tired of your shit, Xanatos.
And can we just talk for a moment about just how many TV Tropes articles he has named after himself at this point?
I
have a lot?
off the top of my head. Yeah, a Xanatos Gambit, right?
Xanatos
because-
Gambit, Xanatos Roulette, Xanatos Speed Chess.
Yeah. Speed chess.
So
Checkmate. I haven't even made a move. Exactly.
that's the point.
I do remember for some reason, Xanatos loved making robot gargoyles.
Yes, he
and
did.
They never worked. Never.
Look, the guy's gotta have a hobby.
He's like an antagonistic Iron Man.
Yeah, he's kind of like what would happen if Tony Stark and Lex Luthor had a kid.
Yeah, with a magnificent beard.
Well, Tony
and a ponytail.
And a ponytail.
he didn't get the
It was
gene.
the 90s.
He got the evil genes from Lex, not the hair genes.
And a tan. He's got a nice tan.
Well, it's from all that walking barefoot in hell.
Yeah. But I really liked Xanatos as a character, just because he was that revolving door of villainy, good guy. He was he did develop, because you had that whole arc where he fell in love, he got married, now he has a kid, and that's a thing. Like, that's real, genuine development in a children's cartoon. How often does that freaking happen in American cartoons?
Not
Even
very.
in Batman,
Not
even in
enough, yeah.
Batman the animated series, you can always be confident that the Joker is always going to stay the Joker, and all of Batman's villains are pretty much going to stay exactly where they are. But I forget where I was going with that.
But yeah, but you're not wrong.
And he didn't go for revenge. That's another thing I remember very clearly about him. Xanatos never went for revenge. If one of his plans were foiled, he was just kind of like, okay, I can bounce back from this. Whereas like Lex Luthor would be like, Superman!
Well,
The thing with
We're going to
Xanatos
giant robot and smash you.
The thing with Xanatos is that he was such a manipulative, like, chess master kind of villain that even when he lost, he still won.
yeah. And
Because he had contingencies for everything.
he was definitely the mastermind kind of guy. He definitely used people. He was very manipulative. I was going to say something else. It also exceedingly wealthy. So, like, even if one of his plans was foiled, no big deal. He'll just spend however much money it takes to build more robot gargoyles. Because he's fucking rich.
Yeah, I guess when you're you have to spend your money somehow.
And you
So
cannot
making robot
imagine...
gargoyles.
You cannot imagine the tax write-offs you can get for robot gargoyles.
or then making the cyborg gargoyle that had like two other gargoyles stuck in his head, so you had all sorts of like weird Frankenstein / Fight Club going on there.
Frankenstein / Fight Club.
Well, he had
First rule
I want to
of Fight
see that
Club
movie.
is
I want to see that movie. Can we get that instead of I, Frankenstein?
Rip Frankenstein, or as they say in Spain, Yo Frankenstein.
Oh God!
Just me, Frankenstein.
No, in the Spanish language, I saw a Spanish poster for I Frankenstein, but the way they have their eyes, so it was Yo Frankenstein.
Yo, Frankenstein!
I was like, that sounds like such a better movie.
That's the ghetto version.
What's up?
I don't know. It sounds more like a bad spin-off of Leprechaun in the Hood.
Yes, that is what it is, and we want it.
Well, there was a 70s blaxploitation movie called Blackenstein.
Oh,
I've heard that.
that sounds
Whoa.
terrible.
Okay, putting the train back on the tracks.
I didn't even get to go into Blackula.
Nor
No,
will
God,
you.
just no. Just no. Fucking no.
Doctor.
Gargoyles! Back to gargoyles. Alright.
So where do we go? Xanatos has been sort of Xanatosed.
Ow.
We're gonna have to Xana toss this discussion out the window.
See, she made it worse. Why aren't you guys yelling at her?
Because we're all Xana tossers.
Oh, okay. All right, so let's talk a little bit about we've talked a lot about the villains, but the heroes were equally complex and developed, weren't they?
More or less.
So let's talk a little bit about them. So, Kat, why don't you introduce us to the clan?
Well, of course, the clan leader is Goliath, who, which I always thought, when you're a kid, you don't really think about this as much, but Xanatos' first name is David, and that's where you're like, fuck, man, it's David and Goliath.
They did a thing.
They did a thing. They did do a thing. Goliath is the leader of the Manhattan clan. He's the big, burly, strong one, big leader type, very together. And of course, he is voiced by Keith David, who has that sexy fucking voice. So, like, he just sounds like this totally just badass creature. I want to say dude, but I don't know. He's like 6'10" and 400 pounds. He's a thing.
He is the thing.
he's definitely like just this gigantic, amazing kind of guy. I don't know how else to describe Goliath. He's the leader. He's the leader type. He's, he's very much about looking out for the clan because they're essentially, as far as they know, they're the last of their kind. So they really have to stick together. So that's they're pretty tight. And Goliath just sort of holds them all together because everybody has like these very different personalities that could probably be traced one way or another to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay. What about the rest of the clan?
You have your elder type, Hudson, who is, he was a former leader, I think. But now he's just sort of like kicks back and is like the wise sage kind of Master Splinter. And then you have Broadway, who's like he's the fat one. He's the fat one. What would you guys describe his personality as like, other than his strong dislike of guns?
Kind of fun-loving, as I recall. Like, well, the three younger ones, Broadway, Brooklyn, and Lexington, were all like, they took everything a little bit less seriously. I recall they also adapted to the modern world way more quickly than Goliath and Hudson did.
Certainly Lexington did.
He was also the skinny one with the technology fetish, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was the one who knew how to use computers and stuff.
Also, interesting side fact about Lexington, this is canonical, word of God comes from the creator. He is apparently gay.
Huh.
Really?
It didn't come up in the series for obvious reasons, but the actual creator was like, yeah, we always intended for him to be gay.
Huh. I mean, it's not like there's a lot of ladies around for them to hit on or anything, although when much later in the series, when Goliath has a daughter, I do remember there being some spats fighting over her between the younger ones, but now
they've been encased in stone for 10,000 years. I'm sure they've got some serious blue balls.
Now I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch and see if Lexington was one of the ones fighting over Angela. Angela? Yes. So Lexington was the hacksaw, really adapted well to technology. And then you have Brooklyn, and Brooklyn was he was Raphael.
Brooklyn, yes, he was the badass loner with a heart of gold.
Yeah, and he has a motorcycle, so he's the really cool one.
The only thing that was missing was a fake cigarette, or I guess because the kid show would be a lollipop.
With a lollipop out of his mouth. But he was the cool one, hot-headed, but just
he had some growing ups to do.
Yeah, he had some growing ups to do. But yeah, like, now that I'm thinking about it, they can all be, like, equated to a character in Ninja Turtles. God, I've never thought about this before.
This just rocks your world, doesn't it?
This really does.
I mean, yeah, it's sort
Everything you know is a lie.
Whenever you get sort of a group, you always have to have, like, you know, I'm the goofy one, I'm the serious one, I love tech stuff.
Yeah.
And then they had a dog. They had a dog that they named Bronx, and it was a gargoyle dog, and he attacked stuff, and was voiced by Frank Welker. So that's
like everyone in the 90s was.
Well, at least most of the animals, yeah.
I was going to say, I wasn't voiced by Frank Welker in the 90s. I was voiced by Jaleel White.
You gotta wonder what what pitch they gave to a Frank Welker for that role was. Yeah, Frank, we need you to come down to the studio and grunt and growl at a microphone for about 6 hours.
Well, you know, that's like half his career. He does animal sound effects even for live-action movies. He provides animal sound effects. He isn't even credited for everything he's done. He's just like the go-to guy in Hollywood for all of that shit.
Like, do we need a thing? We need a thing. Okay, let's just get that guy.
And I'm pretty sure, like, it wasn't a pitch. It's like, we need some animal sounds, but it's not a normal animal. And they would show him a picture and be like, Psh, I could do that.
And he's like, yeah. No, the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
Bring me a microphone and a lozenge.
Now, you want to talk about a challenging thing to do in a script? When I went to a workshop with Scott McNeil one time, a voiceover workshop that he was doing.
Sorry, I love Scott.
He's awesome. He's so crazy.
Spontaneous orgasm.
Scott is my friend. Thank you very much.
He's I love him and his cowboy hat, but he talked about getting a script where he played where all the characters were based on, like, food and sushi, and he played a little wasabi monster. And he's like, so you'll get a script where your character's line says sad wasabi noises.
Well, all right then.
My favorite thing with Scott was it was like Project A-ko or something, and he's like, I played in that show not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 women. And we're like, what? And then it's funny if you've seen Project A-ko, where all the girls that he played are all like super butch and stuff. But anyway, enough about Scott.
Back on topic. Okay. Now, the show ran for a couple years on UPN before it got shifted over to Disney. Before Disney, I guess, bought back the rights and moved it to ABC as the Goliath Chronicles.
It wasn't necessary. They always owned it, but I don't know the story of how this happened. But the series was sort of ending. It was still doing okay, but there was a massive fallout with UPN. And they're like, hey, Greg, even though this is your show, we're going to take it over here now. Thank you for your time. And Greg's like, what? Yeah. So then they took it, and Greg Wiseman says the Goliath Chronicles don't exist in his timeline. And to prove it, for a very short time, and I have them somewhere, there were comics to continue the story of Gargoyles. The only problem is that the company that eventually got it sucked.
Was it Dreamwave?
No, it wasn't Dreamwave. It was someone else. And they got, because what had happened was that they got like Tron and Gargoyles and some of these other like sort of like semi-known Disney franchises. Like, yeah, guys, we're going to make comics of them. And then they did. And then they fucked up somewhere because they probably ran out of money with the licensing fees, and they sort of stopped producing them. And then they sort of fell to the wayside. It got so bad is that there was 2 volumes of the comic, of the main comic, and then there was a third mini-series called Meet the Bad Guys, where it was sort of a Expendables team of bad guys to sort of flesh them out and reintroduce them. Because in the main storyline, it dealt with the Illuminati, which I'm not sure, that was a random-ass storyline in the series itself, with, you know, random Scully character there going like, the Illuminati's everywhere. Mulder? I'm not Mulder. Wrong show. Oh, I'm sorry. And so that continued sort of that storyline, because Greg said that's where he originally wanted to go after the Gargoyles were, discovered. And this is like Illuminati plan going, we have you now. But unfortunately, it just never worked out because poor Greg Weisman has the worst luck as a creator. So that was
happened to him since. This has happened to him again. Since?
Oh, let's see. Let's see. He created Spectacular
Brian's got
Spider-Man.
his historian hat on.
Yeah, he created Spectacular Spider-Man when Sony was still holding on to the license. Then the Marvel merger happened, and Spectacular Spider-Man went away. So then he went over and created Young Justice for Cartoon Network, and Cartoon Network said, that's great, we're not getting the right demographics, canceled. Well, fuck you too. So this has happened to him 3 times. 3 times. At this point, I'm pretty sure every time he walks out of the studio, he just looks at the sky and goes, why? Really? Why?
Sounds like Joss Whedon or Brian Fuller constantly getting fucked over by their networks.
Yeah. So yeah, poor Greg Weisman. But so that's sort of how Goliath Chronicles was just blah.
We do not speak of Goliath Chronicles.
From what I've been told, the creators of the show, again, consider the first episode of Goliath Chronicles to be within the same canon as the rest of Gargoyles, and everything else to be non-canon.
Well, yeah, because they probably wrote that first episode.
Yeah, because they had a comic book series with slave labor graphics that the original creators worked on. And it was supposedly really, really good, though I didn't read much of it. And it was a continuation from where the show left off.
It was slave. Oh, thank you. It was slave labor. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, it was the continuation from where the original show left off, and it picked up from the first episode of Goliath Chronicles and ignored every single other thing that happened in the series. And like I said, from what I heard, it was really, really good, but then Disney raised its licensing fees, and SLG had to drop that and the excellent Haunted Mansion comic. And then Disney bought Marvel and, dropped all of its licensed comics, because they're like, we have a comic book company now. Fuck all you guys.
Boom, sitting there going, oh, Jesus Christ.
You'd almost think Disney didn't want Gargoyles to be out there in the public consciousness, which makes this new move really fucking weird.
I don't. It's not that they didn't want it out in the consciousness. It's a property they really had no idea what to do with. Without the main creators behind it, they're like, and oh crap, where do we go? What happened? And they just couldn't figure out the show. It was too good for their minds.
It's far too complex for what they're used to.
Yeah. And
there's no musical numbers or fluffy bunny characters. We cannot comprehend this.
Is she a princess? I was gonna say. Is she a princess? No, but she dressed like Belle in an episode.
Explain. I was gonna say, it's not that Disney doesn't want to distribute Gargoyles. It's apparently that Disney doesn't want to distribute Gargoyles in a way that will make them money. So they're like, we'll give it to you for free, but we won't sell it to you on DVD.
Me sitting at home going, what the
well, this kind of takes us to the next topic, the next part of the discussion, which is why they're doing this. Do you think this might be a move? This might be a move to kind of gauge whether or not the series is still popular, and maybe gauge how well a DVD release would do?
I think that's a good assumption.
It could well be, because I remember Monty Python a little while back, and I think I mentioned this in the discussion and or headline. Monty Python put a few hundred of their skits on YouTube for free as kind of an experiment, and also because they kept seeing people doing it and they kept having them taken down, etc. It just kept happening. Well, they're like, okay, well, let's put them out there for free, see what happens, see if it hurts our DVD sales. They put the skits on YouTube for free, and the DVD sales increased by some ridiculously high number. It was it was over 200 or 300% increase in sales.
It's over 9,000. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
It was they shot up into the top 15 or so DVD sales on Amazon, near the top of the list than the bottom. I don't remember the exact stats. And they were like, yeah, okay, we'll consider this a successful experiment. Maybe Disney will see the same thing happen with Gargoyles. It's entirely possible.
The only issue I have with that, though, is that the Monty Python's DVDs were still readily available in stores and online. You know how hard it is to get the old Disney shows like online and in stores? It's when the store I worked at got like the Disney I called the Disney Afternoon Sale, where I just had a section of the old Disney Afternoon stuff for like $10 each, and I just bought all that I could.
Because God knows you'd probably never see it again.
Yeah, exactly. You don't. They just fucking disappear.
Disney's artificial scarcity fetish is really strange to me. Like that whole thing, we're bringing this out of the Disney vault. And, even the bullshit about them not releasing the last bit of Gargoyles on DVD. I really don't get what... I feel like Disney doesn't fully understand this entire home video market. Like, I get that artificial scarcity is going to increase sales in the short term, but...
To plan out your whole line like that, though?
Yeah.
Like,
and
everything...
Here's the thing. You can get away with that, I think, a lot easier with, like, feature films. Because, let's be honest. The last 10 years, how many times has fucking Sleeping Beauty been pulled out of the vault for the last time? How many times have we seen Beauty and the Beast re-released? It's usually when there's been, like, a big format change. But the thing is like, that's a single product. You can start doing that with, like, television shows where you'll have, like, multiple box sets, one for each season. I don't think you can really get away with that. At least not as easy as a feature film, because you're talking about something that has a much larger product base, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And I think it's also hurt them. I don't think they realize it's sort of, because I think they make it up in the feature sales, but in terms of their TV stuff, like the only Disney cartoon that I still see on shelves regularly in DVD stores is fucking DuckTales, which blows my fucking mind, because if there's one show that I would expect to just, like, be flying off the shelves so fast, there'd be fucking sonic booms going off constantly from the Walmart across the street from me, it's fucking DuckTales.
Disney doesn't seem to understand what it's doing when it comes to releasing their TV shows. Like, I was really excited about Darkwing Duck coming out on DVD, but then I read the details, and apparently they've got the episodes in the wrong order on the DVD. Like, they've got them all mixed up out of sequence, and for some of them it actually matters. They've got them all mixed up out of sequence. I've been told that they're not the original airings, but they're recuts that were aired on a different channel later.
The syndication cut.
Yeah, so they're shorter. They're lacking stuff. They're lacking stuff. They've got them in the wrong order. I'm like, Disney, what are you doing? You are one of the biggest media companies on the planet. This is not something you should be having that much difficulty figuring out.
They just
Why
don't care.
do you hate money?
They don't care about those things. They're not probably making that much money off of them.
Yeah, there's that, and they have so much money. They have billions upon billions of dollars. There is a malaise, I guess, in certain departments. They're like, you want to release this? I guess. Most features? We can put like an image gallery. That's it. You can do that. Wait, where do you want to put the pilot episodes? On the second volume. What? That happened to Rescue Rangers. I like Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers, and I bought the only 2 volumes that exist. And then I was looking at the back of the volume 2. It was like, with the original pilot episodes. Why the fuck are you in volume 2?
Because Disney just said, fuck it.
Well, this actually touches on something that we talked about several times, but I know we've dedicated at least one episode to it, and that's the idea of, like, if you don't want us ripping it off of Pirate Bay or YouTube, just give us a legal way to watch it. And do you think this is kind of Disney kind of just throwing up its hands, going, all right, fine, here you go, now leave us alone?
Appease those people raised in the 90s.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of this is also coming by because in the last several years they've merged with Marvel and they've merged with LucasArts, and a lot of like the Marvel guys that probably were in there were a lot younger. They're probably closer to our age now, working, so they kind of know how things are supposed to be put out. So they might have taken some of their ideas, going like, "Hey, you know, there's a thing over there called YouTube. YouTube is evil." No, wait, listen to me.
Just let me finish.
First off, let's not go pointing fingers and using the E word. My character become really effeminate. I'm not sure what happened there.
Became a Disney villain.
But yeah, it is a lot of it. So I think it's sort of like it is the old grandfather learning how to use email for the first time. Like, oh, so this is actually kind of useful, and if I don't yell at it, it might help me. Yes. Yes, it will.
Yes, Grandpa. It'll help you.
So now, I guess this begs the question, if they were going to release the series digitally, why not use a service like Hulu or Netflix that's already has a huge subscriber base? Do you think maybe they're using YouTube to try and sidestep the Netflix fees?
I don't know. I mean, it seems to me again like this was less of a money making move and more of like a PR thing, or as we've already mentioned, maybe it's a way to test to see if it will increase their DVD sales, or maybe they just really felt like throwing us 90s kids a bone. I don't know. It seems to me like they basically didn't care whether they were making money off of Gargoyles or not, because it wasn't a big deal for them. So, I think they went with YouTube just because it would reach the widest audience of any of the other platforms.
And very true. And Hulu and Hulu Plus and all that, while popular, is also this sort of weird blob little conglomerate of a bunch of different people. And so I don't see a lot of Disney stuff on Hulu. They just now have a lot of Disney stuff on Netflix in terms of like features and things like that. So it's more along the lines of YouTube is just easier. All right, there's YouTube. Boom. Some poor intern, uploaded the whole series over the weekend or something like that. So I was like, yeah, then there you go, that's easy. And finished.
Now I can go home and watch this show.
Okay. So, all right. So we've all come to the conclusion this is either they're just throwing us a bone, or they're kind of testing the waters for DVD sales. But now this kind of begs the question: what are some other shows that you'd like to see put out on YouTube if they're not going to get a DVD release? What are some other shows you'd like to see kind of brought back from the brink? I know I was kind of surprised to find the old '90s Incredible Hulk animated series on YouTube. I was like, Jesus Christ! There's actually people out there who remember this exists.
You'd be surprised at what we remember, and we'll put it on the internet. I want the 90s Spider-Man cartoon to be straightened out and finally get a full series release. Because for the life of me, I don't know what the friggin' problems are, but there's problems of licensing and all that kind of stuff like that. I wouldn't mind them maybe... Because they showed up on Netflix for a while, and I don't think it's there anymore, at least I haven't seen it. And I was very excited, because I thought that's what they're doing. It's like, we're going to show them that this is super popular, and they will pay whoever they need to and get a DVD release. Several years later, all right, this year, I bet they're finally going to realize it just sometimes doesn't really work. I think they should put some of the old Marvel stuff on DVD, like the old Hulk, the old Silver Surfer show, just to get it out there and get it to see what happens. Okay, hey kids, do you remember this? No! Oh, there's a reason.
The Fantastic Four cartoon with that awful theme song?
The Fantastic Four cartoon actually got a DVD release, a full DVD release.
Really?
Yes, it's
now we're talking about the 90s one that was paired up with Iron Man, right?
This is the 90s one. And it's like $5.
Damn!
2 seasons for $5. I put it out in the store one day, and I was like, oh, cool, $5. That's kind of sad now.
To Best Buy.
Yeah, but I don't have it anymore. This is a while ago. So every so often, when the new Marvel movie comes out, I'll get like some random DVDs I haven't seen in a long period of time.
And then you'll buy them up because you're a hoarder like that.
I would, until everyone else around me also has the same idea. Because apparently my store is sort of the Geek Central stores of my city, so everyone goes. Now it could be possibly my fault because I set before a big changeover. I used to set in caps. I called Brian's recommendation in caps, which is nothing but nerdy shit, and they sold magnificently to the point I kept my manager at the time when I set it up. She's like, Brian, I don't think anything is going to sell. I came back the next day, and like 5 items were gone, and they legit sold out. I just pulled over going, in your face! In your face! That's probably why she didn't work with me after that.
Okay. Alrighty. I tell you, I was kind of overjoyed a couple weeks ago to discover someone had uploaded all of Pelswick on YouTube. I'm probably the only person who remembers it. It was a cartoon in like the late 90s about a kid living in San Francisco who was actually disabled. He was wheelchair bound and dealing with the pits and pratfalls of being a disabled teenager. And I thought very cleverly written, but nobody watched it even back then. So, but hey, it's up on YouTube. Check it out. You may very well like it. But what are some other shows you'd like to see brought back? Brendan, you've been really quiet. Let's get your input.
I
was about to say, if you fell asleep at the mic, I'm going to be pissed.
Nope, I'm still here. I've been listening. It's been a really interesting conversation, and I just haven't had a whole lot to contribute. I mean, a lot of the... Not to play the age card, but I'm the baby face here. I'm young enough that a lot of the shows I watched growing up as a kid kind of have come back. Nah, I wouldn't go quite that far, but the 90s Spider-Man TV show, that one's on Netflix. I've got it earmarked for boring lazy Saturday or something when I have nothing else to watch. There's a decent number of good shows out there that I just haven't gone out and watched.
Okay.
You know what? I'll tell you what I'm shocked about. I'm shocked Nickelodeon hasn't been releasing Nicktoons season sets, or have they? And I just never noticed.
I've never.
It depends on the show.
Yeah,
it depends on the show.
Like SpongeBob SquarePants. I mean, it's one every year.
Yeah.
Invader Zim, you can get the entire series. I think you can get.
Yeah, you can get Invader Zim, but you have to go on a Hot Topic, so you wind up having to get a shower afterwards.
I
says the guy who buys all his t-shirts at Hot Topic.
Yeah, I know, right? I think you can get all of Danny Phantom on DVD. Maybe Fairly Odd Parents too.
You will, eventually, yes. The Danny Phantom the whole series is being released on DVD pretty soon through Shout Factory. I only know this because I work with Shout Factory.
Yeah, I don't know about any of the older shows like Doug, Ren and Stimpy, Rugrats. I don't know of anything like that, but at least the stuff since the Zim era has been seeing the light of day.
I can tell you that neither of the creators of Doug nor Ren and Stimpy will probably ever work with Nickelodeon ever again. So good luck seeing, if we see DVD sets of the Nickelodeon run of Doug or Ren and Stimpy, it will be like a sign of the end times. Because neither of them have nice things to say about their time with Nickelodeon.
Well, we'll probably
John
see.
Christopher Lucy especially. Legend has that if you say Nickelodeon around him, he foams at the mouth and speaks in tongues.
John K. doesn't have a lot of nice things to say about a lot of different things, so he may not be the best go-to example there.
But yeah, that's so I'm always sort of curious. I'm curious about things like that, like why hasn't this released? Why hasn't that been released? Because you see so many different sort of companies, like Shout Factory's getting a lot of weirdo licenses. Like I said, they got Danny Phantom, they got Hey Arnold at one point. They have the Beetlejuice cartoon that got a full complete series release.
Every single episode.
They've got Sam and Max, which made me so happy.
Yeah, so it's always fun to kind of see. And there's a lot of old Fox Saturday morning cartoon stuff that we've never seen the light of day, like Peter Pan and the Pirates.
See, I don't think I think Disney would fight tooth and nail to keep that from being released because.
Here's the thing though, they don't have a lot. I mean, they can fight it, but you're also talking about something that has existed in literature, so it's really hard to fight something like that.
Yeah, but Disney kind of has a reputation for doing that. They've gone after people who posted stuff for who've made stuff like Winnie the Pooh, which is, as I recall, in the public domain. And Disney's been like, no, Pooh is ours, be gone.
Out of context, that's a very interesting sentence. Pooh is ours. But enough.
Our Pooh, not your Pooh. Our Pooh.
Enough of the shit jokes. But they also have to kind of every so often they do sneak out. I have the complete series, Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego?
And now Cat is singing.
Except that their song was they put lyrics to a classical one, so it was like, Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego? Carmen Sandiego. Like that's what their theme song was.
Yeah, it was actually a from an opera by Mozart. And one of the funniest things I've ever found on the internet was it was actually a video of a comparison video of the Carmen Sandiego theme. Yeah, I can't talk tonight. The Carmen Sandiego theme song versus the original Mozart piece, and all the comments came up to, "Oh my God! Someone call at me! Carmen Sandiego has stolen Mozart!"
We got that. So I'm wondering if maybe some of the companies or some of the creators or whatever, they might also try YouTube eventually to get sort of legit things going out. And because the hope is if we would get all of these things. I mean, shit, we're going to get the Adam West Batman complete set. And
finally.
Wait, what did that happen?
That just recently got announced earlier this year, so it might not even debut until later this year, maybe early next year, but they're doing the complete series of it, and I thought that was going to be the mark of the end times. I really did.
About goddamn time.
Yeah, the legal battle of that is as legendary as any legal battle you could find.
Oh, I believe it.
So I'm pretty sure it was just a war of attrition. Like maybe one of the lawyers was like, "Fuck it, just take it. We don't care anymore. You beat us down."
Okay. Well, I think this personally, I think this whole Gargoyles on YouTube thing, I think it's a positive sign because if nothing else, it shows at least that the companies are at least willing to listen on some small, minuscule level to their fan base. And it's like, okay, you want Gargoyles? Okay, we'll give you Gargoyles and see what you do with it. So maybe this might be the start of a positive trend where companies will start to realize, you know what, we want this, the customers want this, they're going to find it anyway, we may as well just give it to them and make a few bucks off of it. Which, really, that's pretty much what we've been saying, what we've been telling them for the past several years. Look, we're willing to pay for what we want, you just got to give it to us. But that's all the time that we have for Nerd of the Third Power this week. We'll be back next week with our Golden Bacon Awards. And now that I've said that, everyone's going to die next week. Just watch.
I already died just in the middle of you saying that.
We're going to be looking back on 2013 and all the best and worst of everything that's come out in the past year. And the week after that, I'm really excited about the Lego Movie. We're going to be discussing that. And just in time for Skyblaze to actually have seen it too, because that doesn't come out until Valentine's Day in the UK. So we'll have a full boat for that one. So, yes, that's all the time we have for Nerd of the Third Power this week. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. We'll see you next week. As always, I'm Dr. Gonzo.
I'm the cat.
I'm Brian.
I'm John.
And I'm the Blast Seeker.
All right, we'll see you next week. Taka, play us out.